Hello, everybody, Ajarama, and welcome back to another episode of Pass the Mic. Today, we are joined by,
Dante, aka SquareCymbals. What's up?
yes, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit of a backstory. I came upon Dante's page through Square Symbols on Instagram, and I was like, oh, awesome. Black drummers, amazing. As a Black drummer, I'm just like, okay, follow, follow. And then I'm like, okay, obviously, I should invite them on the show. Let's do it. So I sent a message, and here we are, and I'm super excited. So happy that you're here. So I just wanted to just share a little bit more about like who you are, Square Symbols, how did this start up? I know that you're a self-taught drummer. What's that journey been like for you?
It's been, I want to say like it wasn't like a grueling experience. Thankfully, when I was coming up, like the 2010s in Cleveland, there was a very like vibrant and collaborative music scene here. So there were like a couple of bars that I can just go to hear music every Monday or Wednesday or Thursday night. And then eventually I just became one of those people. So it was really cool. Everyone like kind of help guide me, or like there was enough to do in the city and there's enough to practice to be able to play towards, to eventually kind of find my way and find my voice really.
Okay, so you kind of started off like going maybe to like open mic, like live music shows, and then thought, let me try it
Yeah.
out, and then it just grew from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Every Monday and every, I think, one Wednesday or Thursday, I would go to like the same two open mics. I had a
Mm,
group of friends. They were all really good. And I got to know more people in the city as that happened, and I would volunteer for music events. There were a bunch of local festivals and art
mm,
festivals and things that would host musicians. So it was just like constantly in my orbit.
Okay, that's great. And so how long ago was that?
Uh, Actually, like literally a decade. Like
Okay, I
I
was
didn't
like,
start
are you
playing
gonna say
until
like a day, like a year? Like, I was like, how far?
I started playing in 2013. That's when I
Okay.
bought my first kit
Okay.
and just practice and go to open mics and eventually, play shows.
Okay. Okay. It's actually a good amount of time, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good amount of time. Enough time to like succeed and fail and everything. And so now like where are you at with Square Symbols? Like tell us a bit more about that journey with Square Symbols.
I am like super late to social media. I didn't start doing anything online until like 2017. I was just super paranoid because I don't mess with the government. But
And
uh,
now.
exactly. But I had a friend who was doing like a lot of social media consultation work, and she was like, "Yo, if you want to kind of pursue bigger heights with this, you might have to just like put yourself out there a little bit more." Um, so that's kind of where the Square Symbols thing came from. I was looking for something to start a YouTube channel with, be on Instagram with, that seemed safe and kind of kooky. And then I started making drum videos, I want to say 2019. And then when 2020 happened and COVID, we were locked down and I was going through it. I had a bunch of stuff going on. And through therapy, I found that like kind of making drum videos were like the best way to kind of build a healthier relationship with music and really like center my love of it. And I just fell in love with drums again. And that's just been going strong ever since.
And so you were kind of in what were you trying to like as you were saying it from as like to get out there, was it getting out there more as like creating content as a drummer? Were you trying to get out there to become a drummer for bands or like what was the goal really?
Well, it was interesting in that like I was always very active,
Mhm.
especially when I was, during that period or whatever. I went to shows probably every weekend. I went out dancing a lot. So I just knew a lot of people. So by the
Mhm.
time 2016 hit, I was already like in five different projects. It's that thing
Mhm.
where like there's so few drummers here and like people who are like good at listening at that. So once you are seen as one of those things, or as like a solid drummer, you get kind of scooped up. And
Mhm.
I was busy practicing every night and doing all this other stuff. So I guess being online was mostly a way to just know about what was happening without having to like overexert myself into every little like publication or outlet, because like the social media kind of works as like a funnel for all the stuff kind of funnels
Mhm.
through there, so it made
Yeah.
more sense.
So are you part of any drum projects going on right now? Or music
Yes.
projects or bands or anything?
So since 2017, I have been a part of the collective Morning of Black Star, which is an ever expanding group of 8 individuals. We are mostly Black, and we perform music that is within like the African American diaspora. There are elements of jazz, experimental, Afrofuturist soul, so many different things. We released, I think, four or five albums, and we have a
Wow.
couple more
Okay.
projects coming out soon. And we're actually like, we just started our collaboration with Kaboom, which is a youth orchestra here in Cleveland. So we are going to be doing some performances this summer with like a full orchestra playing our music. So that's going to be really dope. Last year we did so much, literally played a few festivals. We had a residency in Berlin where we had
Wow, okay.
dancers play our music as well. We composed music around that. Spent so much time in Europe, a little bit, played a couple festivals in Australia. Like I just did like my audit of last year, and I was literally on tour for like a third of the year. So
Wow.
it was a lot.
All over the place. Okay, not just Cleveland, like across oceans, across many oceans, Australia as well. Wow, okay. All over the place. So, like, do you identify with a specific genre as a drummer? Are you saying you're more like into like experimental jazz, kind of African American diasporic music, or do you tap more into like other genres? Like, what's your favorite style to play, let's say, or it could be all of them.
It's a thing. Like I generally love how I was raised. I had a very musical mother, and like she just like would play records all the time. So I feel like it's whatever the vibe is. I played
Mhm.
neo soul, I played jazz, I've done reggae in certain projects, I've done punk, alternative indie, rock, metal. So I like anything as long as it feels
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
And like as long as like we can like kind of mesh and build something. So Morning has a bunch of different styles. Primarily, it seems to be like kind of uh, leaning into some trip hop experimental stuff, but there are some like hard rock tracks, and there are some, I don't even know, like new wave. Like it takes all of it. So I
Mhm.
really like that. And then last year, we spent a bunch of time being the backing band for an artist named Lonnie Holly, and
Mhm.
all of that music is improvised. So we would come up with everything on the spot. So that kind of like helped build chops in that arena as well.
Okay. That's a lot of genres, a lot of different sounds. That's amazing. I can't wait to check out one of the, what did you say, 5 albums that you guys have worked on so far?
Yeah.
If you had to recommend one of the 5 albums, what do you think would be like
Uh,
the best album for someone who's really trying to get a like bite of the of your sounds?
the Reckoning, which I think, let me see, the Reckoning is a good intro into Morning of Black Star as to, like how we kind of craft a sound and like build a song. But The Cycle is our double LP that we released in 2020. And that is like a double album collection of songs that we kind of just toured rigorously in
Mm-hmm.
2018 and 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that has like the best feel for like our live shows and experiences. So I would say if you want to like really dig in, you can start there.
Mm-hmm.
But we have more coming very soon. So
That's not a live recording of your shows. You're just saying it's a good like listen to get your sounds is what you mean.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
okay. I thought it was
yes.
like a live
We
show
are
recording. Mm-hmm.
we thrived live. Like we put on
Mm.
a really good live show. And I think yeah, we also on Bandcamp had released a live concert from Boston
Mm.
that we did back in July. So if you want to hear a real live show, you can
Yeah.
check that. But The Cycle is probably one of my favorites.
Okay. The Cycle, everybody check that one out. I'll put the link in the description below. So as I said, like I found you from looking on social media. Maybe one day I was like in a downward spiral of just like consuming content online. And then I saw your page and I was like, oh, cool, Black drummer. But then there was like words and I was like, what is this about? And I was like, started reading and I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit political. So can you tell me a little bit more about what inspired you to start having more of maybe not started, but maybe online, let's say, to have more of a political voice and how to use your content to kind of educate and share more about what's happening in the world?
Yeah. Well, it's been like what I want to say like a year, maybe 2 years since I started like political posting or whatever. I intake a lot of political content, both on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. I like to read, be it like short stories or articles or collection of books or essays. So it's always something that's kind of been like kind of bubbling.
Mhm.
I started making drum content for myself mainly as a way to become closer. And people resonated with that on TikTok and in some places of on Instagram, which is cool. But I also noticed how the online sphere has become more hostile
Mm.
towards uh, people of color, women of color specifically, trans people. And it just felt like I don't know. I wouldn't want people in my audience who were hostile to marginalized people. So it
Mm.
felt easier to kind of share my opinions on things. And then once that started kind of like resonating with people a little bit, I thought it would be more responsible just to kind of share something more I don't want to say sustainable, but something that provided more context
Mhm.
for what we're experiencing currently, and at the very least gave people something that they can like grab onto and explore more of themselves. And that has kind of been where my page has been since. And I'm not sure how long that'll last. And I know that it's growing and expanding into how I talk about music and how I experience my life as a working musician. So yeah, I'm happy with where things are going, and I'm hoping to like kind of bolster that part of myself. And I like learning things, and I'm hoping other people like learning things too.
So do you see your page? It could be that you see it as both, but do you see your page more as like kind of like more like an informative space to learn about what's going on in current issues, or you still see it more as like drum practice content space, or as I said, it could be both, or just is it just your
It,
space? Dante's brain
I don't,
symbol.
that's the thing. That's such an interesting conundrum to be in, where I'm like, how
Mm.
much of it is like my personal responsibility or my feeling of having a personal responsibility as a person who has a platform of any kind, and
Mhm.
how much of it is space just to be myself. And I like being creative. I like making stuff, and I always enjoy making stuff, and I always want to make something to help people. And that's why I like playing music in the first place, is that it's so collaborative. So I feel like in terms of where the page is going and like what the kind of stuff that I'm making, I want
Mm.
to kind of highlight a lot of what is happening and be a reflection, because art is always like a reflection of the times that it occurs in,
Absolutely, yeah.
as well as kind of challenge myself to do more. I love film. I like recording. I like filming things and editing and expanding that creative output to make more things that can inform people in various ways, or kind of break or shatter the illusion of the pompous, egoistic musician who's more important than everybody, and like people like really see music as labor, and for us to be storytellers and partakers of the liberatory tradition of marginalized peoples, and like kind of share in solidarity with that the stories of everyone else that have come before me, the stories that are happening now, all of it. Like there are so many possibilities, so it's just like I can ramble about this all day.
You're like, don't get me started. No, I think that's great. I feel like, especially in these times, actually, I feel like this has always been something that I've struggled with. It's like things happen, people are like, why aren't you speaking out? I'm like, I didn't even know about it. Like, I'm not a
Mhm.
journalist. And I'm like, but now that you've told me, like, sure, I'm gonna share it. And I'm finding this like very weird balance where people are like, you need to say something. And I'm like, I didn't know. I'm not a politician. It wasn't an intention to be an activist. The world is just like going crazy. Therefore, I have to speak
Mhm.
up about things. And like, where does the balance start? Where does it end? And like, this has been like one of my biggest struggles. And I took a big break even from this show on October 7th, because I was also at like a work meeting with everything going on. I was like, I don't think this is the best space for my platform right now. Like there's more important things. And people are like, but why aren't you talking about? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know. Tell me what to do. So this is like, this has been like a really big struggle for me. Well, not even a struggle. It's just more like, what do I want to do? Do I want to use my space to share more about politics? Do I want to talk more about art and let people that are good at talking about politics talk about politics? So I think what you do is a very good blend of the two. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, so I have a question. Like you've talked about like how you started your music journey, where you're at now, content creation. I hate this word, but like yeah, like content creation. So who was your inspiration? You said you've listened to a lot of experimental jazz, metal, rock, indie. Who would you say inspires you as a musician?
Oh, there's so many. It's like it's interesting because I feel like as a drummer, I'm just like ripping people off constantly.
Mm,
And when I'm like so directly tied to the nuances of all of my favorites, like their sounds and their little eccentricities. Um, but there's so many modern people too. Like they're I think one of my favorites, Yusuf Days, an amazing drummer, is doing really, really good right now. Nate Smith, super, super dope. Mark Juliana, the typical, jazz cats that people listen to, young folks listen to now. Classically, I like Max Roach, Art Blakey, um, Tony Williams, another one of my favorites. I listened to a lot of punk in my young years, Bad Brains and
your
Rite the
young years.
Spring, Black Flag. I love the hardcore stuff, post-hardcore stuff like At the Drive-In. It's been super sweet. Uh, yeah, like there's so many inspirations, but also
Mhm.
like I like how the music economy like kind of inspired me to kind of put myself out there more.
Mm,
There are folks that I'm even like in bands with, like Latoya Kent, who is in Morning a Black Star, and she was probably one of the first femmes that sang lead in a punk band here in Cleveland, like
mhm,
publicly during her era. Um, and just seeing folks do stuff that I didn't know was possible. I'm
mhm.
currently working on a piece where I'm like processing what 2023 was, and I talk about seeing the band Block Party,
Mhm,
uh, which is like a UK garage rock band from the
mhm.
early 2000s, led by Kele Okele, and had Matt Tong on drums. And it was like the first time I've seen like a black and like mostly just like a half non-white band like
Yeah.
play rock music on MTV.
On
Super
MTV, you said?
important to me. Yeah, like it
Mhm,
was it was wild.
mhm,
Um, so I'd say like every piece of representation that I had in like the early 2000s that I've seen bands like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs,
mhm,
like Block Party, um, even people like Lenny Kravitz, like seeing more black folks play rock music, seeing more black folks experiment with hip hop and see that go into different areas and have it call back to jazz, weirder stuff like clipping and injury reserve. Um, yeah, there's so many different parts where I'm like, wow, like you can really do whatever you want.
mm. Yeah, music is, yeah, you literally can do whatever you, especially when you start to get to like electronic production and stuff like ambient sound, like, yeah, because I produce electronic music and sometimes I'm listening to it and I'm like, yeah, it is music. It is, especially when you get to
This
noise,
is definitely something.
the noise genre, where sometimes I'm
Ooh.
like, huh, okay, it is music. And then there's some people who do noise really well, and I'm like, yeah, noise is music. Music is really whatever you want it to be. It's true. Yeah, so I think this is a great moment to segue into, unfortunately, the last part of the show, pass the mic. If you had to pass the mic to two or three people that you think would benefit from being on the show that are like Black or Indigenous artists, either from your region or any region that you've seen who are inspiring that really people need to be listening to and pump into their ears? Who would you recommend for us?
Ooh, there are a lot. First of
Two or
which would
three.
be
Two.
um there is Unity. She is a young Black punk singer from Philly, I believe.
Okay.
She's based here in Cleveland now.
Okay.
Super dope. Screams well, super heavy, great taste. She can basically do whatever she wants. And I'm happy that like, to share space and create with her on some live stuff. So she's super dope. I'd say check her out. And there is my friend Kathleen from the Katie, who has always been one of my favorite songwriters. She moved to LA recently, but the Katie, I think, have two or three projects out, and the way that she kind of structures songs around bass melodies and rhythms have always like kind of I felt has been like underappreciated. Super
Mm.
cool songwriter. I'd say those are my two Black femmes that I love dearly. They're super talented. So yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah, you'll have to share that with me, and we will definitely put that in the description, like all of the other good stuff we've talked about today. So, unfortunately, this is really the end of the show. Do you have any final words you'd like to leave with us?
No, just thank you for having me and listening.
You're welcome. And hopefully, if you ever make it to the continent, we can take you to some amazing black metal shows.
That would be
I
amazing.
think
It'll
you will
it'll
love it.
definitely happen.
Yes, you
Yes,
know who to call anyway, if you
there
end
we go.
up. All right. Thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for watching. We will see you next episode. Bye, everyone.